two ways to see a challenge. One is to ask the question, why did that happen to me? The second question is simply you can change it from why did that happen to me to how's this happening for me? And when you do that, you recognize that you cannot change what happened in the past, but you can change the meaning. You can go from being a victim of your history to a master of your destiny if you simply change the question.
This special episode is all things to do with quantum physics. The incredible Dr. Espen has really come on board to share so many incredible nuggets. We'd love to hear your story and how you've become who you are right now.
I grew up in a beautiful town called Arendelle, which is actually what the movie Frozen is based on, which is a little fisherman village in the south of Norway in Scandinavia. And when I was 5, my brother passed away. 2 years after that, my sister was born disabled. I was raised in a family where both my parents were alcoholics. My mum didn't know how to deal with the loss of her son. When my sister arrived and was permanently disabled, that became another challenge. But then when I came to Australia, I also had another nice challenge, which is breaking both of my legs on a motorcycle. And then I got a life-threatening infection and almost died twice. So I healed myself and I'm the healthiest I've ever been. And it's a privilege to be able to teach the power of self-healing, the power of innate intelligence to people.
If you could leave with that one key that would open the keys to the queendom, what would that one piece of advice be? And we are back with Keys to the Queendom. I'm your host, Tamara Maya, and this special episode is all things to do with quantum physics and working alongside your unconscious mind to really creating the reality of your dreams. The incredible Dr. Espen has really come on board to share so many incredible nuggets, but more importantly, his story of how he was able to go from not walking to building his legacy and really helping people heal their traumas, as well as understanding, you know what, how to make money, how to build a business, how to be incredible at what you do, and not being a victim of your reality, but being someone who's of growth mindset. Now, this is a really special episode close to my heart. And I say this now because I'm really leaning into this type of work. I'm really leaning into allowing myself to surrender to spirituality, yet also having the strategy in business. And I really love how Dr. Espen really takes you on a journey with his story and some great key points on what you can start doing. Because the first step is that awareness piece, yet what you do with that awareness is what you get to decide. And if you're not choosing to lean into growth, leaning to healing, you're choosing to avoid, deny, and not do the work. Now, if you are loving our podcast, if you're loving Keys to the Queendom, if you're loving this season of evolvement and you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel or you haven't yet subscribed to the Spotify, what are you doing? And I say that with love because we are bringing in some epic guest speakers. But more importantly, if you leave a review and you subscribe, it allows us to grow, which allows us to build more impact and to be of service. And so my biggest ask is this is all for free for you guys to listen, free advice from some epic people. All we want is you to spread the word. So please make sure you subscribe, please leave a review, and please continue sharing this episode, sharing any of the episodes on your socials as well. Now, without further ado, this is Dr. Espen. Dr. Espen, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on Keys to the Queendom. Thank you so much for being here, legend.
It's a pleasure.
So I wanted to set the scene because this is season 3 of Keys to the Queendom, and it's all about evolvement in whatever that feels called for you. So when you hear evolvement, what's been the biggest evolvement you've done so far?
That's a great question. I think firstly, we all can kind of connect to the fact that we go through challenges in life. And I think when we talk about evolving or evolution, I think the first thing that comes to mind and to heart is the evolution of humanity and what we're going through collectively, as well as individually, from potentially lower states of consciousness to higher states of consciousness.
And I know your beautiful message is all to do with your story around bringing consciousness and the breakthroughs that you've had. But for those who don't know who you are, we'd love to hear your story and how you've become who you are right now.
Sure. Again, as I mentioned just briefly, I think we all are well versed with challenges, some big, some small. I grew up in a beautiful town called Arendelle, which is actually what the movie Frozen is based on, which is a little fisherman village in the south of Norway in Scandinavia. And I had a beautiful upbringing to begin with. And when I was 5, my brother passed away. So I found him dead in his bed when He was only a baby and I was 5. 2 years after that, my sister was born disabled. So I was raised in a family where both my parents were alcoholics. My mum didn't know how to deal with the loss of her son, and my father wasn't around much. And then when my sister arrived and was permanently disabled, that became another challenge. From there, I tried to do the best I could. Growing up in a home of alcoholism, and now I know it's one of the greatest blessings I've ever received, because I believe life happens for us, not to us. But then when I came to Australia, I also had another nice challenge, which is breaking both of my legs on a motorcycle. And then I got a life-threatening infection and almost died twice. So I remember that when the doctor looked me in the eyes and said, we have to cut your leg off to stop the infection. It was in that moment I realized that I had to take health into my own hands, because I had spent well over a year listening to the doctors and the surgeons and the nurses, taking all the drugs and looking to them for answers and to them for healing. And in that moment, I ripped the intravenous out of my arm, didn't look back, walked home and started breathing and started healing. And now I have been able to do exactly that. I healed myself and I'm the healthiest I've ever been. And it's a privilege to be able to teach the power of self-healing, the power of innate intelligence to people. So I think as we look back, to kind of give some context, there's only 2 ways to see a challenge. If listeners and viewers now take a moment to picture in your mind, or perhaps remember a challenge that you've had in your life, it could have been recent or it could have been some time ago. There's only 2 ways to see it. One is to ask the question, why did that happen to me? Which is what the ego loves to do. It loves to ask the question, why that happened to us, so that we're a victim of it. And as such, then we don't really have, we have lots of excuses to kind of stay stuck. But the second question is simply, you can change it from why did that happen to me to how's this happening for me. And when you do that, you recognize that you cannot change what happened in the past, but you can change the meaning. You can go from being a victim of your history to a master of your destiny if you simply change the question.
As you were saying that, and the beautiful pinnacle moments of what you were sharing with when you were a little boy, growing up with parents who had obviously alcoholics, to then moving to Australia, it honestly brought forward something for me with like just the storytelling around like when you were growing up, like there was evidence there that there was something more for you. But I also remember myself when I used to have moments in time just going, why is this happening to me? God, why? To then realizing this gets to be our story in our next phase of our journey. Did you have moments like that growing up? You're like, why? And obviously, what was some of the evidence then that you start to see now, the connection to where you are now?
That's the thing, right? And it's a great question, because when we're caught up in the trauma in the moment, we're so clouded by emotion. Emotions cloud reason. And when we cannot see the situation clearly, we cannot prepare for it nor respond to it with any degree of conscious control. So that means that when the emotion sets in, that it is in that moment best not to react. But then we do, and then we regret it often after. So when the emotion does set in, take a breath, and then another breath, and then the third breath, and you'll be much more able to respond if you have to, and if you can, wait. And so it's not until later that we get to look back from a higher perspective, and then ask the question, how did that happen for me? What am I supposed to learn? What is the universe trying to teach me? How did that happen for me, not to me? And that changes the game completely. Because as I said, even if you don't believe in higher power, you can still change the meaning of the story. So for me, in the moment, it's very difficult, still to this day, of course, because we're so clouded by emotion. But then you just sit down, just write down the scenario, and just grab a pen and write down 100 benefits. 100 positive things that have come out of the challenge. And if you don't stop until you get to 100, I guarantee you will have started to equilibrate the brain. You will have started to open the heart, and you will start to move away from victim to victor, just by simply acknowledging that as per universal law, it has to be as many positives as negatives, as many benefits as drawbacks.
Yeah, wow. That really resonates with me. And for the listeners who have now just brought forward conscious awareness, and then there's that awareness piece. What's then the next key steps to really living in this beautiful element of consciousness and going away from the mind into the heart? Like, how do you create the steps with that?
Well, you just nailed it, because the first step is the awareness piece. We don't know what we don't know. In fact, that's the first stage of the 4 stages of competence, which is the unconscious incompetence. I don't know that I don't know. I don't know that 98% of my thoughts, patterns, blueprints, and beliefs of reality started at the first 7 years of life. I don't know that the majority of the reasons for my addictions and my behavior that I don't want to have, or that I don't enjoy, or that I hope to change, comes from the underlying emotion. The addiction and the behavior is normally not the problem. It's the underlying wound of the emotion that's the problem. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know why I'm having negative thoughts when I'm living in a country like Australia and I have so much to be grateful for. I know I should be more grateful, but why aren't I feeling it? I don't know what I don't know. And that's what I teach, that first step, as to, call it closed eye meditation or hypnosis, where we get to take our students back in time and breathe and sit and become fully conscious, become fully aware of when the trauma or the habit or the thought or the emotion or the blueprint happened, and how to change it. Because you don't want to change it to what anyone else wants it to be. You want to change it to what you want it to be. And that's the first step. So I love how you mentioned that, Tam, in terms of awareness. And when you are aware that you are aware, that is awareness right there, as I say. So that's the first step. And then, of course, the second step then becomes asking the question, how do I want to heal it? How do I want to change it? What do I want to change it to? Because let's say that the thought is, I'm not good enough. Or that the emotion is, I'm not worthy and I'm not loved. Now, you know that you're worthy, you know that you're loved intellectually, but as you know, over 95% of how we perceive our entire reality throughout our entire life comes from that subconscious or unconscious part of the mind. So to work on surface level is useful for the point of awareness, but it doesn't change the blueprint in the subconscious mind. That needs to be done at a deep-seated subconscious subatomic level, which is what we do in our events and in our coaching. So to answer your question, the first thing is indeed awareness. And after that, it's making a conscious decision, setting a conscious intention as to what you want that blueprint or belief or thought or emotion to be. So you can go from fear to love, contraction to expansion, stress to presence, fear to love, et cetera, et cetera.
And because I still haven't gone to your events, I promise it is on my to-do list. And I say that with absolute love and conviction. Now that you're teaching these things at your events, what are some of the things? And I know this is, again, like for the listeners who have no idea that the type of transformation you support people with, like, I'm navigating through self-sabotage in business. My dad was a gambling addict, and there's part of my story. I was homeless when I was a little girl, right? So I have a blueprint around money that I've been navigating through and working on. But what are some of the transformations you've seen that would be really beneficial for the listeners to really feel drawn to bring them forward?
It's a great question. Firstly, I'd like to ask listeners and viewers a question. And that is to choose from the two following scenarios, either one or two. Neither is right or wrong. It is simply a matter of what you believe. Scenario one is for you if you believe that you're only made up of flesh and bone. So that is scenario one, is you believe that you're only the body, right? Only materialistic physical self. And two is that you are a spirit, a soul, some sort of consciousness having a human experience. Which of those two would you say?
Queen, how often have you said, I spent my whole life studying, I've been to school my whole life, and I've actually learned nothing that teaches me the tools and strategies to build a successful business in the outside world. You've probably spent thousands of dollars on courses, or you've heard fake news from business gurus. Well, I'm here to give this incredible news to everyone here right now that this is Queen Stream University. Get out of debt and actually start making money in the online space, knowing and having the foundations to build a successful business. Now, I'm talking because I have gone through the trenches. I have been a fitness coach, built my online business as a pro athlete, and now I am a business coach. You'll go from having absolutely no idea what your business is through, in the 8 weeks, learn the foundations of knowing what your purpose is, your vision and mission, and also understanding your business values with the execution to know what that business is. You'll also learn branding, social media, content strategy, marketing, and more importantly, how to sell. With Queenstream University, it'll cut out the bullshit and remove all the fluff and get you working specifically on your business so you can execute this in 8 weeks to get ready to learn. I wanted you to have something where you get to access something straight away, where you get to fast track your growth, as well as remove any doubt, any overwhelming sensation or stress, or the question that everyone seems to ask, where do I begin? With Queendom University, you'll be able to build wealth, freedom, and at the end of the day, be an entrepreneur and be able to say, I have finally built my own thing, my own business. And I've stopped making money for someone else, and I'm now making money for my own empire. Queendom University.
Two?
Two?
Do you see how unsure I was? I'm like, is that the right answer?
Well, that's the thing. There is no right or wrong answer, but you are spot on. Most people, 99% of our students believe that there's more to them than just the physical presence. You're not the body or the mind only. You are the consciousness that occupies the temporary human experience of the body through the mind. And so the way we understand or understand this is important, because that means that you are then, say, the eternal embodied in temporary time. And when you ask this question, as in, where to next for humanity, if you will, or what is that step? I think for me, after you have the awareness and you've set the intention as to what it is that you want to experience in life, what you want to heal, what you want to achieve, what you want to experience, the next step is to understand that we are multidimensional beings. And if you Google, for example, or go to your chat GPT and you look up what percentage of my atoms are made up of empty space, you're going to get the answer of 99.9%. And so ever since Max Planck became the father of quantum theory well over 100 years ago, he actually won a Nobel Prize for this conversation that we're having right now, when he proved, quantified, and provided evidence for a quote-unquote field of divine intelligence that is not only within us, but it's who we are. Yeah. So we are consciousness. We are having a temporary human experience. And if we are to evolve as a species and as individuals, we have to tap into the multidimensional aspect of the self. We have to expand our consciousness beyond the lower senses, or the five senses. And we have to really start to expand our mind, expand our hearts, and begin to let go of the things I mentioned before, the thoughts, patterns, indoctrinations, emotions, and beliefs that are of the lower mind that don't serve us anymore. And this is something that may seem esoteric or a bit out there, but it's actually not. This works for every single person, every single time. In fact, you don't have to go without when you go within. So we have created a protocol for people to go within and become conscious of what is vibrating or occupying the space within them, so that we can apply a scientifically proven curriculum to increase energy, frequency, and vibration in the body.
What I love about everything you're saying is that you're actually teaching the art of science and quantum physics. And if you don't mind me sharing a belief I have around what I've seen in the coaching space, there's a lot of people selling manifestation and stuff. But what I love about you, you're selling actual facts, actual proof, actual science and evidence stuff that's happening. You're transforming people's lives at your beautiful events. And so what does that look like for people who are wanting more than just to expand their consciousness, but actually live a better life, feel a better life, and be at better vibrations and frequencies?
It's a really great point, because the fad of quantum has been around for a little while, but the fad of, you can manifest what you want and so on and so forth has been around for even longer. Bob Proctor was speaking about this. We know most scientists that are really founded in real science, quantum mechanics, or quantum physics do teach this. However, it's important to realize that we are already interdimensional, multidimensional, highly evolved spiritual creatures who have been quote unquote downgraded to a temporary human experience. We've been indoctrinated by a so-called educational system that's supposed to educate us, but really more indoctrinates us. And I was a teacher. I'm a qualified teacher. I left the school.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a PE teacher, and I left the schools because I could not partake in a system that did not create empowered individuals, but rather people who would just tick the box and do as they're told and, follow, not lead. And then same thing in healthcare. I used to own 10 multidisciplinary health clinics, medical doctors, chiros, dentists, nurses, naturopaths, and so on. And again, the healthcare industry, we don't have a healthcare industry as such. We have a sick care industry. And if we wish to be well, we can't apply sick care to healthcare. So there are these things that we need to kind of come to terms with when we ask the question, who am I? And what do I want to experience? And as Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result equals insanity. So if we understand or understand that we are now at, let's say, this level, call it level 3 out of 10, that's probably I'm probably stretching it too high. I think at human potential, we're probably sitting at about a 1 or 2 out of 10. We can get to a 10. We are at 10. But in order to get from a 2 to a 10 out of 10, we have to remove interference. It's not that we have to go anywhere. If not that we have to like become anything or do anything. It's just we have to remove interference. If we can remove interference, then we are already going to, as I say, come home to the essence of our own ontological being, which is true consciousness and light. And to embody that within the being, the body, mind, and the soul, and to bring that into the upper third dimension where we exist as humans at the moment, is quote unquote what we have been referring to, or sages of the ages have been referring to as bringing heaven on earth. It is simply to bring light, consciousness, and love into the body and the being, to share that, and that is heaven on earth.
And that the way you've just explained it is so beautiful. So thank you for that, because I feel when listeners are wanting to understand how that can impact them and what that looks like or feels like, it's how you explain the interference. And so what would be some of the examples you have removed interference in your life to tap into, I'm assuming 4D, 5D dimensions? Is that right?
Great. Yes. Well put. So firstly, I had one of my students, so we do the 1-day events and then the summits, and then they come to the 3 days, and that's really where the magic happens. I had one student, this beautiful lady from Queensland. She went to the doctor and she was told that she was going blind because she had not had tears for a number of years. The doctor assessed her eyes and said, "Oh yeah, you haven't had tears for this long. Well, you're going to be going blind." Because her mother had been going blind. And so she believed the old saying, which is, it runs in the family. And unfortunately, most people believe what the doctors say by, borrowing that belief and then imprinting it into the subconscious, which of course then manifests exactly as per the belief. I mean, we understand placebo and nocebo. Where you see random controlled studies where, for example, they give someone a sugar pill and someone else the actual drug, and it seems to have almost, if not always, the same effect. And so we know the power of the mind is more powerful than the actual pharmaceutical or a medicine intervention itself. So what does this have to do with this conversation? Well, it's incredibly important to realize that when we come to terms that we are not only the heroes that we've been waiting for, but we are also the common denominator in our lives, then we can take a good look in the mirror and recognize that if we devote ourselves to personal development, to healing, to growth, this is a growth-based universe, not a comfort-based universe. The more comfortable you try and become, the more you're going to hurt. So we kind of have to, tap into the essence that there is tremendous power and potential within, but we're not going to be able to reach that potential if we stuff ourselves with unhealthy foods. We make ourselves really busy looking at the idiot box. We drink contaminated water, and we don't take the time to open up our hearts. Yeah, right. And so this is really, it just depends. We are at the cusp of this next step in humanity. And I think we all get to decide which role we want to play. There's no judgment. There's no need. We don't have to do anything. We get to do something. And that's a choice of free will.
So I'm going to share a story around my beliefs. And I think this is going to help the listeners understand, I guess, my fight I have had in previous, especially I want to say spiritual encounters or spiritual coaches, or even just learning about the high power, because I've seen how I've had bad experiences, let's just say, about that. But what I've been really called to share and just having a conversation with you is that what you say feels to me congruent, feels really aligned. And when you speak about, God being within, which is essentially we are the universe inward, right? Like it's just a matter of us, as you said, like going into the growth phase. And I remember when I started life coaching and committed to the personal development space, everything you start to see, you can never unsee, right? And it's like a slap in the face. Like I've had moments today where I felt triggered, aggressive. And then I'm like, here's a beautiful man talking to me about the universe and quantum physics. I'm like, this is just a sign. And so do you feel, a lot of people ignore the signs and it becomes too late, or at least a point in time where it's like, well, this needs to change now. And how can we start not being at that point of ignoring the signs and really leaning into trusting that and being at that higher consciousness?
Excellent question. So the client that I just told you about before, she was told that she was going blind. She believed it for years. Yeah. She comes to the one-day event. She does the breath work with us. And then she stands up, and we got this on video. She stands up and she's just bawling her eyes out. And she's telling us the story, how she went to the doctor. The doctor said, "You're going blind." And she goes, "Look, I'm not going blind. I can cry. I have tears." And the whole crowd is just on their feet. Wow. And it's so powerful because the power of breath. Think about this, Tam. The first thing that happens when you're born is you take a breath. The last thing that happens before you die is you take your last breath. In fact, in many indigenous languages around the world, including here in Australia, the word for breath, spirit, and consciousness is the same word. And so we found that through breath work, through meditation, through these powerful breakthroughs that we can share with people now, magic can happen beyond space and time. So the first step is to try something new. Right? Again, if you're at this level of consciousness and you want to get to this level of consciousness, you're at level 2, you want to get to a level 10 or level 3 or 4 even, you have to do something different. You're not going to be able to solve the problem by the same level of thinking that created it. So the question is, what are you willing to try? Are you willing to open up your mind and not just learn, but to unlearn some things? And that's the key to it. Because if we now understand who we are, if we know we're operating at a tiny percent of our potential, then the question is, as I like to say to my students, what if the top is just the bottom of your potential? I'll give you an example. The human eye can currently see 0.008% of the colors that exist in the room right now, or in the car, or wherever you're listening from, right? The human ear can only hear 0.0035% of all the phonons, all the sound that exists right now. So we call it the matrix. And it's a really good analogy because we're only tuning in to a tiny blip of the energy that exists in the space, which also means the potential that you have in your life. And what I've discovered is a scientifically proven methodology. We're now official research partners with James Cook University in Australia. We're partnering with multiple laboratories around the world to do these tests, and we've been able to prove the effectiveness of these methods. So now we know that it is possible. We're in the age of Aquarius. Everything has shifted from a dark age to a golden age, and might sound esoteric, but the simple fact of the matter is there is so much light entering our atmosphere now. There's so many particles and waves of light entering the atmosphere now that it's almost impossible not to awaken as a species. My hypothesis is that it's already done. We just have a lag in the timelines, and we get to be a part of this if we want to go, as you mentioned earlier, Tam, on a conscious journey from the head to the heart.
Yeah, wow. This is really speaking to me, and I really, really am grateful that you've been able to share all this. If you were to really now really focus on the roles that this has helped you in order to grow a business and receive the love that you have within, like, what are some of the great things that's happened in your life? Of course, with your story you've just shared, but because this is a podcast we support women in business to build their empires. What's the empire that this has built for yourself because of this practice, and why women and men should be doing this?
Hey, beautiful kings and queens. Are you right now in a space where you're ready to take action and build your business, yet you struggle where to begin? You're feeling stuck and overwhelmed with all the things you need to do when it comes to building a business. Build the business of your dreams in the online space and be in the arena of all the incredible, great humans out there that are building 7 to 8 figure businesses. Now, the foundations that I truly believe in that you are going to learn through this membership is sales, marketing, content creation, social media, money mindset, and of course, branding. Now, all of this will be accessible for you to be learning what is currently hot right now in the market and how you can create your own business and build a successful business in the online space. All you have to do right now is DM Empire in my Instagram or email myself and my team, and we will get the ball rolling so you can have your empire and start making moves in the online space.
That's a great point. I mean, if you let's be clear, as one of the last things that the late great Dr. Wayne Dyer said before he transitioned was, you don't manifest what you want.
Mm,
You manifest what you are able to become and sustain vibrationally.
yeah.
And so then let's say that we have this level, right? Let's say we have 0 to 10, okay? Just keeping it super simple. If your thoughts are at a level 2, such as, oh, today's a stressful day, oh, I'm too tired, or I'm not going to be able to be financially free, or, today is, this employee is making my life difficult, or I'm not going to be able to do the sales call and sign the client, like anything.
Mm,
If that is our focus point, that's what you give life to. So energy goes, energy flows, energy grows. So what most people have been conditioned to do is to pay attention to the things that they don't want. I mean, it's rampant. If you look in Australia, we live in Australia, we have food, we have water, we have shelter, but most people are not really as grateful as they could be, and they're not even living in a developing country. And so I think it's fair to say that, as we know, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership, but we're not receiving the things that we want because we're not paying attention to the things that we've been blessed.
mm,
So if we understand this and to talk about, women in business and how to be a successful soulpreneur is what I refer to us as, then it's really coming down to what's in between your two ears. Because
mm,
again, if we have a level 0 to 10 and our thoughts are at a level 2, maybe a level 3, maybe you can access level 4 from time to time, and we want to manifest at a level 10 or a level 8, well, there's no way you're going to be able to do that if you're focusing, bringing your attention upon the things that you don't want.
mm,
Similarly, as it says in the Bible, where there are 2 or 3, so there you will find me. And I paraphrase, of course. What this means is not just the thought, it's also the emotion and the intention. And so then if we have the thought, I want $1 million, I want $1 million, that's the intention, that's the masculine aspect of it. The emotion is often, shit, I need to pay my bills. I don't have money to get by. I don't feel emotionally safe
yeah.
in my relationship with money. And so then the thought can be a level 8. Hey, I want to have $1 million. I want to run $1 million business. I want to be, a millionaire, but I don't feel like that. And so then, as per the Heart Math Institute and the study that they did, the magnetic field of the heart, which is of course the emotion, which is of course the language of the body, thoughts are the language of the mind, we actually manifest 5,000 times more powerfully through emotion. And so what I teach in my programs is to equilibrate the mind and emotion. Because again, if the thought is, I want $1 million, but the emotion is, I don't feel safe around money, you're going to get the emotion. That is the womb, the feminine aspect that gives life to the manifestation or the intention. So again, we have to realize that we are creators of our reality, and we create every millisecond. Everything around us is a projection, a reflection, a mirror of our own level of consciousness. And as such, if we want to have the success in business and impact and financial freedom, we have to do the inner work to raise our energy, frequency, and vibration in thoughts, emotions, and intention to a coherent level 7, 8, 9, and that's when we're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Before we do that, all the structures, all the know-how, all the the things to do in business is useful, but we are always going to get what we always got unless we raise our energy, frequency, and vibration. And that's how we do it. It's an inside job.
Yeah. I was interviewing Dr. John DeMartini, and he shared a story about how this one comment a man's son had said to him about his father saying, if you make more than $500,000, you're a crook. And so that was his belief around, well, every time he made more money, or just before the 500K, he would self-sabotage. So it just goes to show that when people do self-sabotage in business, is that it has a lot to do with the internal wound that they haven't healed yet. And so this type of stuff, coming to your quantum experience, is what you work on essentially as well.
It's a great way. It's a great place to start. And I actually had dinner with Dr. John DeMartini on his ship last week, and we had many, high-level conversations around these things. And one of the things that came up was exactly that: how we are simply mirrors of people, showing them what has got them to where they are now. And similarly, I think about 2 months ago, I ran a private breathwork session for Dr. Bruce Lipton because he understands the power of breath. And one of the things that we discussed, which he also has shared for a long time, was that 98% of our blueprints, our patterns, our beliefs, the way we see reality, 98% of the way we see reality is created in the first 7 years of our lives. That's where source code is built. And so if we realize this, then we have to go back and recode, if you will, change the program from I'm not good enough to I am more than enough, from I'm not loved to I am divinely loved by myself and by everything and everyone all the time. We have to go from the contraction or the vibrational bandwidth of fear over to the expansion of the vibration of love. That is as simply as it can be explained. However, doing it is more of an in-depth process because, well, that means that you're going to have to sit with the inner child that doesn't feel good enough.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the situation when you were 7 and you were bullied, or when your mother told you that you couldn't be that, or your father said, you're not this or that, and or whatever the upbringing is. And I don't know about you, Tam, but I've got children. I've got a 6-year-old son, and so when I look at this, I kind of do personal development for my own well-being, but I also do it because I'm not willing to pass on, very constricted programs to the future generation of the people that I love the most. As I say, it ran into the family until it ran into me.
That's just a beautiful thing that you just said. It's something only recently, my mum, who's just recently retired, has decided to do emotional intelligence coaching. And I just think because of her, she got me into NLP. She used to make me listen to Tony Robbins in the car with a cassette back in the day. And it starts with us, right? So it's just, again, like a really beautiful thing that you're breaking the systems of 3D world and bringing this forward to the children's and children's children. So what I've got 2 more questions. I know you're super, super busy, is so that the listeners are going to come to the event, including me, can have something to start working towards so that they feel not ready for your event, but what are some of the routines you're doing now that people can start doing so that they can start coming to your event as well?
Great. Well, the first thing is to ask the question that I brought briefly up before as to who am I? Am I spirit, soul, and consciousness having a human experience? And most people would say yes. If you didn't understand or understand who you are, then the question is, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to feel? How I'm willing to act to be able to embody that? Because that's the key. And once we recognize who we are and what we're capable of, then we take the action. And it's not like I've got to go do a whole bunch of things. We get to do the things that is the deep work, the healing work. The second thing that I would, just to give someone, listeners of you, something really tangible, and I'll be blunt on this and you can disregard, but I'll say it as I would have said it to my coaching clients. If you don't have a morning practice where your phone is off, okay, you do not turn on that so-called smartphone that makes you more stupid in many ways until you finished your morning routine. If you do not have, 90 minutes in the morning, and I mean minimum 60 minutes, where your phone is off and you get up and you do your stretches or your breath work or your journaling or pull a card or drink your favorite tea or just go for a walk or sing or dance, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever makes your energy signature spark, whatever gives you life force, whatever brings you inspiration, whatever feels really good for you, that's what it is. It doesn't matter if it's surfing or if it's anything else. It's your thing. Now, if you don't have that 90 minutes in the morning, you are basically, as the old saying goes, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. A lot of people get up in the morning and, mothers and fathers, and we go take care of the kids and, make the lunches and do all these things and take care of the husband or the wife and da-da-da-da-da. And before we know it, we've drained our battery before we even start our own day. And that is so dangerous if your intention is happiness and health. So we have to put ourselves first. I say, kids don't always do what we say, but they certainly become like we are. So the best thing that we can do for our children is to put ourselves first, because they'll be observing us. And if we're always running out of steam and we're trying to pour from an empty cup, they're going to end up being passive submissive as well. They're going to end up doing and taking care of everyone else and putting themselves last. That makes them sick. So if we love our children, we put ourselves first. If we love our family, our friends, and our community, we put ourselves first, because when you charge up your batteries in the morning, like I have a routine, yoga, breath work or qigong, always in the morning. I might do high intensity interval training. Then after I've done my breath work and my meditation, I jump in the sauna and then I have my ice bath. I don't do an ice bath because it feels good or because it's comfortable. I do it because once that's done, everything else, including difficult stuff, is a breeze. So Tam, conscious leaders lean in to good stress. Conscious leaders lean in to discomfort. The more comfortable you're trying to be, the more you're going to suffer. So to answer your question, if you really want to live an extraordinary life, if you want to be an amazing mom, an amazing dad, an amazing leader, an amazing entrepreneur, a morning practice without any interference is an absolute non-negotiable. And from then, once you've done that, then you can come to my events and we can see what we can unpack, unlock, and unleash.
Well, what if I'm already doing that? No, I'm not doing the cold baths. I will be honest. I will be honest about that. But
well, that's not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I do it because of the proven benefits to our health. But it's not something that I enjoy, but it's something that I do because, as I said, once I've done it, everything else is a breeze.
Yeah. That's a really great reminder for myself and the listeners. So thank you so much, Dr. Espen. We have this final question we ask every listener, every incredible guest speaker. And you've already given so many amazing advice and golden nuggets, but it's if you could leave with that one key that would open the keys to the queendom that unlocks that piece of advice for the listeners right now, what would that one piece of advice be?
It reminds me of an ancient story. It's a story of creation between God, the creator, whatever you believe, whatever you refer to, and man, as in mankind. And in the beginning, God asked man, what do you think we should do with the power, the wisdom, and the unconditional love of the entire multiverse? Man looks at God and says, we should hide it. We should hide it at the top of the tallest mountain, for surely there they will never find it. God looks at man and says, well, one day when mankind is evolved enough, they will go there. And when they do, they will find it. Okay, says man, then we should hide it at the depths of the deepest sea, for surely there they will never find it. Again, God looks at man, smiles and says, well, one day when mankind has evolved enough, they will go there. And when they do, they will find it. Okay, well, I don't know then, says man. And then Creator leans down, smiles and looks at his creation and says, why don't we take the power, the wisdom, and the unconditional love of the entire multiverse and place it right there in the middle of themselves? For you see, one day, dear child, when mankind is evolved enough to remember who they are, then they will go there. And when they do, they will find it. So my message is simple. That power, that wisdom, that unconditional love of the entire multiverse is not just in you, it is you. So remember who you are and give it everything you've got because you deserve a life of magnificence.
Dr. John, I was about to say Dr. John DiMartini. Dr. Espen, it has been an absolute pleasure. What a beautiful way to end this incredible episode. And for everyone that wants to find you and come to your events, please let us know where we can be amongst this beautiful, beautiful space with yourself right now.
Of course, no problem. So if you go to my website, Dr. Espen, that is DRESP for Peter, E for Echo, N for November, drespen.com/upcoming. Then you'll see all the events. So Dr. Espen/upcoming or drespen.com/upcoming. You can also go to Instagram, dr_Espen, ESPEN, and just send us a message and we can share some links. And we do events all over the world, including ones that are virtual, so people can join in virtually. I have a lot of classes and courses on business development as well. So it just depends on what you're after, but go to drespen.com, send me a message on Instagram, and we'll help you get access to some epic resources, including some of the breath work that we have, which is probably a good thing to give breath work a go by now, I reckon.
I actually really resonate with breathwork, and we've got a retreat we're running as well this weekend for our clients. So thank you so, so much for bringing all of this forward. We're going to have all of this in the description box. And for the listeners, this is Tamara Maya, your host on Keys to the Queendom. Thank you so much, my friend, for being here.
It's a privilege. Thank you so much for giving me the space to share.
I'm in for playing big today with authenticity, because here is the thing. It's not about being perfect on stage, perfectly put together, which is important, yes. It's about being who you are. What if right now, because of today, in a year's time, you could look back and go, I did that scary thing. And that's a year from now where you went and made that decision. I'm going all in, committed to doing the work. I'm committed because this is so much more than me. It's not about me anymore.